Hello, this is a review of what our research argument paper needs to include. I'm just trying to give you a brief overview of some of the things that we will be doing in our research argument. So we will start off by discussing the research argument's purpose. The purpose of this research argument, uh, it's kind of the main focus of your paper. It gives details about your paper, the main focus of the issue, and evaluates the issues within your topic. I want you to weigh the different arguments within this topic, so pros, cons, people that are in between, and then you're going to provide your own take or your own idea or evaluation about the topic. I want you to convince readers to see your perspective on this issue, and you're going to lead to the call to action. The length. This is the bulk of your paper. We've cut out the editorial analysis, so instead, this is going to make up a good portion, roughly 1,500. You might have 2,000 words. We're looking at about 4 to 5, 6 pages. It's okay if it's longer. I don't want it to be shorter. You need to include any necessary background information. You need to provide supporting materials for your argument. So lots of internal citations. You've got your review of literature already. I want you to provide counterpoints to these main arguments. You have to address these counterpoints. You just can't show your perspective, whatever it is that you think is the right solution or view on your topic. You have to say, here's what other people think, and let's talk about them. Here's why these aren't necessarily the right way to think about it. You can use logic, you can use reasoning, you can use experience and research. You can say research shows that this doesn't work in other countries, so we shouldn't be doing that here, or that there's a better solution. Let's look at this. So those are things that hopefully you are trying to figure out. I want you to think of this like a written debate. It's going back and forth between point, counterpoint. You have these kind of subtopics that you're looking at to help you maintain your focus. What else does your paper need to do? It needs to be focused. You can't be going off all over the place. You have to really think about how you're organizing it. I want you to limit the diverging or tangential arguments, things that get away from your main point. So this is what happens when you think of either straw man arguments or things like that in logical fallacies, where you're trying to talk about one thing and someone's bringing up these um, false analogies, right? So the big one, of course, is we've talked about this with drinking age and joining the army, all right, joining the armed services, right? You can be old enough to be in the army and die for your country, but you can't have a beer, right? Those are false comparisons. There's nothing remotely related aside from an age requirement between having a beer and dying for your country. But if you want to talk about lowering the drinking age, people often refer to that even though it doesn't really do anything. It makes people upset. But really, what is it that we're talking about the drinking age? Why is it 21 and not 18? Well, it was done that way to reduce drunk driving deaths. So instead, we can talk about those things. We can talk about uh, safety and things like that, as opposed to going on this diverging argument about, oh yeah, you can die for your country. Well, yeah, you can also die just driving down the street. You can die doing all sorts of things. Doesn't even have to do with having a beer. So watch out for those tangent arguments. Bring them back to focus. That people might say this, but that gets beyond the point. You can bring up these common misconceptions, bring up the fallacies within your argument, and say people often think this, but they are wrong for these reasons. They need to learn more about this. I want you to engage the reader by challenging the assumptions about the topic and providing your perspective, your new perspective. We're here to say something new about this issue. You don't have to convince everyone, but I want you to connect to people who are undecided about the issue. That is your target audience. You're not preaching to the choir, people who already agree with you on this issue. And we're not here to convince the most die-hard opponents we can. We're not attacking the opposing side either. We are here to provide a convincing argument. And then finally, sample structure, and this is kind of loose, but since you've introduced your topic, through the overview and review of literature. You don't need an introductory paragraph that says the exact same thing that's in your overview. Instead, get right down to the business by addressing the issues, assumptions or misconceptions about the issue. You can talk about the background even a little bit more. That'll be fine too. And your thesis should have your main argument. Your thesis should be in those first or second paragraphs, so we know what the focus of this research argument is going to be. Something that is evaluative, like current efforts to reduce crime have not been enough to create noticeable improvement. Instead, we need this different approach, right? So that's your evaluation. And so we know that you're talking about reducing crime through different methods. And then you focus on these subtopics. First, proving why the current methods are not working, maybe providing background to show why the background efforts to reduce crime have been misguided, right? Maybe there's bad research or something like that. Then you say, well, other countries don't have this problem. You point to those issues. Then basically you connect it all back to your thesis. This is why it's not working. Then state your thesis, point to your call to action. Here's the change that we need to do. Greater reform by getting rid of whatever policy you think is causing the most harm. Then that leads us into your call to action. Your call to action is going to basically say, here's what needs to be done, here's why it's going to work. And that's for another lesson. But hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully this recording is working. So I've been having some problems. But anyway, if you have questions, please contact me.